Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first collaboration Spark of Genius OK&Y podcast. I think the podcast is still on the channel as of recording, so I'm going to say OK&Y podcast. Myself, I am Eric, joined by my co-caster, co-commentator, co-creator, co-compatriot in that order, Rob, on top. And I'm joined by 2/3 of OK&Y. I'm joined by the OY. The K just ran away, I guess. So we have Oliver. They are not okay anymore. So we have Oliver, our runner-up, calling New Jersey 17th place in nationals, just good enough to call him the most okay prism in NA. And we have Yichin, the mastermind tactician of the channel, who pretty much makes this entire thing possible because he speaks better than all of us, as you can tell. So we have a bit of a collaboration here. This is going to be a 4-part collaboration, I believe. It's going to be on both of our channels. So it's going to be split up into 2 discussions, a whole lot of gameplay, because that's what both of our channels are kind of good at, I think. I don't know. People watch sometimes, right? And then a bit of an overall review about the decks, kind of how they did, a bit of a deck tech at the end for anyone who wants to maybe bring these decks to any kind of their locals. I know RTN has CC format, so you can bring it to CC events like that coming up in July. Just an overall primer for the new heroes and how we think they might have an impact on the meta. And so without further ado here, we do have our first discussion video. And this video, the main purpose is kind of introducing not only like the decks we've kind of constructed. So we've kind of assigned the new heroes to ourselves as far as Dromai and Icelander goes. We'll be testing these heroes against each other and against some more like predominant meta picks. I would say like picks that are definitely played in the previous meta. Not Starvo, not Chain. They are living legend. We don't care about them. Not relevant. Go away. And so they will be kind of tested across both of those. Myself, I'll be on the Phi. Rob will be on the Icelander. Oliver will be on the Dromai, of course, because, illusionists and such. And Yichin will be grading us on a scale of 1 to bad. So we're going to be seeing how well we can do. Well, it's however you want to look at it. Maybe we're just all bad.
Yeah, I really like a couple of the heroes.
Yes.
Yeah, that for to test them out and all of that. But,
yes.
Unfortunately, there's no 4th hero, so
there's no 4th hero.
Graciously given the task of assembling the decks to the 3 of you.
Exactly. And I mean, this is just another reason why we need to tell LSS to make another 4-hero set so that we can actually do this properly, right?
I mean, if OK&Y were by themselves, they would have had 3 heroes perfectly.
Okay. That's all great and now, but it wouldn't be much of a collab.
We need 5.
Okay,
5 heroes.
True. 5 heroes sounds perfect.
So essentially, that's kind of the premise of what this series is going to be all about. We're going to take you from cradle to grave here, from deck inception to deck deception, I guess. And so starting off here, I'll be starting off with the Phi build. So as you can see, you want to roll over to the other one, the 121?
Yes, this is the first draft here, right?
Yeah, so the first draft here on Phi, right? So initially, my take on deck building is to throw in my wish list of cards, my bucket list of cards, as they say. Everything that I think might be good in a Phi deck, period. Just like not like a Draconic or a Rupture or Wide or whatever. Just anything that I kind of want to throw in there. And then I kind of like shave off pieces, like bits and pieces here or there. Like a really big rotating like meat, those meat rotators, what are they called, like shawarma like, when you go to shawarma and it's like one of those, that's deck building for me. You go to a shawarma place, Oliver's looking at me like I'm nutso, but that's how
I thought you were gonna say like building. A nice like slab of marble that you were gonna like chip away at slowly. That would have been
that would be equating my deck to a statue, which is never a statue. So it's going to be more like a messy plate of shawarma. So we're going to the meat tornado here. Yeah, so you'll notice here on my first draft, starting with equipment here, in like as far as what stood out to me during spoilers for Phi specifically, I did go to Vegas as well as Oliver, and we did, we played the premiere. Well, I played the premiere, and Oliver just kind of judged us all intently. But he opened the box. You can find that on the chat. It's an okay box. You can find that on the channel as well.
Just okay.
Just okay. Took a little bit of the set. As far as spoilers, I think there weren't too many things I was like intently spoiled on as far as the reveals. I think the main cards that I really liked for Phi were the cards that came out after the fact. So like the legendary ninja arms are very, very good. They weren't spoiled. They came out after they were revealed after the fact. But I think some of the other cards, like the some of the rupture cards, kind of piqued my interest just as an enabler to not only go wide with some kind of finisher or on hit effect, like Rise Up, for instance, that had that dominator. That's a 1-for-3 dominate based on Phoenix Flames. It can potentially, if you get all of them, it can be a 1-for-9, right? A 1-for-9 dominate costs 1. You can snaps it, you can razor it. Like those kinds of cards that are able to really foot the bill for like the damage you're trying to get through, because you can go super wide, but if they tank it, they like some armor, some ice, stuff like that, they can really just like hit you back even harder with on hits or anything like that. So that's like the main thing.
Yeah, and it's like Rupture is like Phi's version of combo, essentially, right? It's adding a couple of cool on-hit effects that the player is, or the opponent is forced to block, and rather than just take.
Exactly. So that was like the
CNC one, that one for.
I'll mention that. Yeah, the breaking point. Breaking point, I think.
Breaking point. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
One of those two. So those are the ones that stood out as far as the spoiler season to me. I do have them in the list, of course.
Yep.
So the general shawarma approach, as I'm going to call it, is the 120 cards. The equipment was kind of the first thing I looked at. So I think there is room for 2 builds, one based on Kodachis and one based on Searing Emberblade. And the key difference is the fact that the Kodachis are not draconic, right? And if you do run things like Kodachis, your blue 0 costs become a lot more valuable. And you just need to run, a decent enough density to actually be able to draw one and use 2 of that to automatically hit with both Kodachis. This particular build, I was looking at more of a draconic style build. So I valued the draconic chain link on Searing Emberblade often than not as my core principle, my core tenet of the deck, to try to go wider on the draconic chain links. And I don't think Kodachis can do that properly. However, I think Kodachis is still a very, very good option. And there is a deck there that I will definitely make after and test it out, because I'm not sure which one is better, right? But for me, I played Phi in the premiere, so I saw Emberblade in action, saw it in draft. So that's kind of where I worked around. There are a couple cards that I am unsure about, as they say. So if we're scrolling down here, so actually the first one I'm a little bit unsure. I don't know how good Flamescale Furnace is in Phi compared to Dromai. So the equipment, if you scroll a little bit to the top here,
I think it's cut off. Yeah, there you go.
I put it in there purely as a sideboard option. You can actually switch over to the 80 card.
Sure.
So I kept it in the 80 card. Sorry, I didn't keep. I think I was going to keep it in the 80 card. I was going to keep it. It was one of the last cards I cut. I think the card blocks for 3 over 2 blocks. Right, it's a temper 2. I think the effect is really not going to come in super as potent as it can with Dromai. And I think the card slots, there's so many other cards I want to run in this deck that I was unsure about that card. I think with testing, I think Tunic is still Tunic. Like Katsu ran it. Aggro decks have been running it for a millennia here. Like Briar runs it. Like these, it's a very similar deck to those styles, right? So that was one I was unsure of. If you scroll down a little bit here, funnily enough, Engulfing Flame Wave. Is it Flame Weave? I think it's Flame Weave. Engulfing Flame Weave. You see 3 of there. It's actually in the sideboard right now. 2 for 5 just irks me a little bit in this kind of deck. It might be amazing. However, this deck is running Razors, and this deck is running Snaps. And Engulfing Flame Wave is probably like fairly decent. I am going to try it out. I am unsure about it as of putting into the deck. I can see myself swapping that card out for something else. E-Strikes were a cut off the deck, one of my last cuts for the deck, because you can actually make E-Strike Draconic with Searing Emberblade? No, the one with like he's stamping the guy. Brand with yeah. I just call it branding guy. So you can brand E-Strike as Draconic and actually keep going. But the problem is E-Strike always costs another card, which kind of irked me a little bit. It was one of the last cards to go.
Yeah, but it'll almost always make your like potential chain link 4s not really feasible, really, because you need the 5-card hands typically.
Yes. Yeah, no, for sure. And so that one was a little bit iffy. The rest of it was pretty easy for me. If you scroll down a little bit, Phoenix Form was one of those like key pivotal draconic cards that is really good with all your Phoenix Flame. So that's like kind of like in a Kodachi build, I don't know how good Phoenix Form would particularly be, because the density of cards that will allow you to get your Phoenix Flames into your hand, in the graveyard, and back to hand to be able to play a lot of those, I'm not too sure. But in this particular deck, I think it does really shine. Thaw. So Thaw is also one I'm a little unsure of. You'll see I have Thaw 2. Thaw is the only card that gets rid of an Ice Affliction currently. I actually had to FabDB and search. Yeah, I had to actually search up Ice Affliction, and literally only the Afflictions itself and Thaw came up. And I think that I'm willing to change this card if Icelander or like any Ice deck period that wants to run these Affliction is somewhat decent or like good enough in the meta that you need to run these cards, then you have to take some sideboard slots for it, because I can see it being a bit of an issue that you can't get rid of them without this card. I could potentially see 3. I have it at 2, just kind of my sideboard-ish density that I'm unsure of. That's just kind of me. It's by no means correct. It's just kind of how I look at it for a first draft. So that one I'm a little unsure of. If we're going down a little bit further here, my I don't know how spicy of a pick here, but I have Art of War in this deck. But I don't think it's very surprising for anyone that plays Ninja. Not all Katsu builds had Art of War, but when you look at this deck, especially the Draconic version of this deck, like you have so many attack actions. You have Tunic to pay for it if you need to. You're running Tome of Fire, but you're running 3 Tome of Firebrands that let you also draw cards. So this deck wants to draw enough cards. You'll see I didn't have Ancestral Empowerment in the deck. That was one of my last cuts also. It was very difficult for me to take it out. I really like Empowerment.
It's a really good card. Yeah.
There are a fair amount of Draconic Ninja cards. There are also like just Draconic actions that Empowerment doesn't affect.
Right.
And so we ended up saying that there's too many, like the buff density was a bit too high because you were running on Razors already. So that kind of left. But like the Art of War to banish, draw 2+1/+1 that's generally what it's going to be like. It's very Chain-esque. You just don't get to play the card you banish. But in general, you run enough blue density. I think I run 16 blues in this build. That I think it's still valid. Again, I am unsure about it. I do have to test it. That's how this works. You run it, you think it's good, and then it's garbage. But maybe it's godlike. You never know, right? So that's the one point I want to make there. I think the only 2 points I have left, I am running Belittle Minnowism. I think it's necessary in this deck. I have 3 red Belittle. I don't run the red Minnowisms. I run the 3 because it doesn't contribute to the Draconic Chain Link. So also it doesn't contribute to any Chain Link for that matter. But it's just not Draconic. I don't really care about the 0 for 3 because I already have Rise from the Ashes, which is 0 for 3 on Draconic. It's already got the same curve and it gives you Phoenix Flame back. So it's actually 0 for 4 really. So I don't run the red Minnowisms, but I do run the blue ones. Very, very good Blue Minnowism package. I think it's a must if you're running less than 20 blues, honestly. Yeah, particularly in this style of build. Again, I am not a preeminent aggro player, so this is just kind of a guess. But from my chain playing,
player. Yeah, exactly.
I do play a fair amount of chain.
You're treading the line a bit there. Yeah.
I was going to say that this deck looks a little bit like the chain deck with the Little Minnowism and the Art of War.
You rebranded your chain deck.
It's just Draconic Chain,
Art of War,
but without Husk. Without Husk, right? I'm actually playing Chain. I'm not playing Husk.
You're just very salty that he got Living Legend. So you really wanted to play
I didn't play him at Pro Tour. I didn't play him at the Calling or anything like that. I'm not salty at all. Point being is I want a little bit more Chain in my life.
Yeah, it's actually interesting that you said that Engulfing Flame Wave was one of the ones that you were unsure about, because I was talking about it with Oliver ahead of this.
Does he love it?
He says that it's probably one of the better cards in the deck.
Like, you could be right. And it's just from a pure stat line perspective, and it just, you can hit a lot of really good stuff, right? And I think it really depends on like meta matchups, how the deck is like cohesive together.
Yeah.
I just worry about the fact that if I'm running Razors and stuff like that, and Snaps, Snaps it doesn't really matter, but Razor is the big key. If I want that thing to hit, I need to Ancestral works on it, but I'm not running Ancestral.
Put some pummels.
Yeah, I'm not running. Pummel.
I'm not that have a pummel target.
I'm not that spicy. Definitely more on the mild side. Yeah. Well, point being is that The two. What's the
Yeah,
second
I
one?
was kidding. Just
I have. Because that's the on hit that doesn't exist that I need to worry about.
yeah.
But
And I was gonna add to that, even though this card costs 2, it does replenish a card with its effect. So
if it
it's
hits,
like
if it hits,
if
yes.
it hits, right? Yeah. So looking at the
coming in
chain
for
link
5
kind
is
of
nice.
endpoint there to get the chain link 4, it's still possible. I would say, like, if you do get the hit
Yeah.
off, you can get a 0 cost
But
attack and just add it on there.
It's not a rupture, which is kind of nice. Like, you can start with this card. It's fine. Again, I might play with this card and say it's godlike, but I kept it in there as like one of the last non-cuts. So
did you
we'll
mention,
see.
Eric, that we have not played with these decks yet? I forget if you did or not, but we have
Yeah,
not
this is the
played
draft
these
strap.
decks.
We
yet.
have not.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I don't know if Oliver has, but like me and Rob have not played with these decks. We are filthy non-players until we play with the deck. This is just
all
the theory
in our
crafting.
brains. Yeah. No.
Look, you have to build a deck before you play with it. So this is the first
That is
part here.
fair.
We gotta explain the full part here. The only thing else that I mentioned, if you scroll all the way to the bottom here,
Yep.
to the left, you'll see Rising Resentment in yellow and blue. This card is so good. Like this, especially in yellow, it triggers your Shuko. I think that's what the Legendary Arms card. It is a 2 power, and it's so annoying to block, but like the effect is so good. The pitch, like the lowering, because you have so many 1 costs in your deck that this thing making them free, like you have so many 1 cost go against that it's such an annoying card that you can also get value off with your legendary, that it becomes, and it's draconic. It's everything you want, and it's pretty easy to actually get it buffed with something like your searing. If you go scroll a little bit to the up, scroll a little bit higher, it's actually pretty easy to buff with Spreading Flames as well. Because it is like the base power is either 1 or 2 depending on the blue or yellow. So I think that's actually a bit of an underrated card.
Spreading
in yellow
Flames into Rising Resentment maybe for 2.
Oh well, you would play it later. You would play it at like Chainlink 3, and then you get the +1 buff, right? Because it'd be 1 Chainlink lower. That's because that's base power 2. Anyways.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yes, right. It wouldn't gain the buff. Yes.
That's the main part. The last thing I want to mention is the matchups I'm worried about and like early thoughts on sideboarding. So my sideboard is pretty clear. It's Thaw. It's Thaw, possibly Tome of Firebrand, and also the 2 for 5.
Yep.
I think the sideboard is a little bit like and the attack reaction there, the one of the collision, no, combustion point, I think.
You called it a collision point earlier. Yeah, combustion.
You know what? It's colliding to the point where
colliding
it's colliding
here with, is that a fist?
So,
I think that's a punch. Yeah. Oh, that's a palm. He's palming the guy.
Okay, he's palming the guy, and it's also on my sideboard. So again, definitely very fluid. I have an idea of what the 60 are. The matchup I'm worried about is anything that says ice in the name, because this deck runs 16 blues, which is actually not that bad. It does run Belittle Minnowism. There are a lot of targets for Belittle. So I'm not like stupendously worried about it, but it is something I am worried about as far as, hey, if they ice or frostbite and tax me, I'm not going to be able to pay for a lot of stuff. But it might just turn into a grindier like game to the point where I might just have to chip. Oldhim comes to mind as being a big worry for me. Icelander might be a worry. I think around those decks, like you can't be favored into everybody, right? But I think into like aggro decks and mid-range decks, this deck is super explosive. And if you can't punish this deck with on hits, you're going to be in trouble, because you can go like stupendously wide with this deck. And so I think that's kind of where the strength is. But I am definitely worried about like Oldhim / like even a Bravo, like a disruptive Bravo can do a lot of work into this deck.
Yeah.
Spinal just shits on this deck, right? But you are rocking 4 armor as far as your mask and Tiger Stripe, so I guess your tunic. So, but that's basically my rundown of the like my thoughts of building the Fi deck. And of course, the descriptions of all these deck lists will be in the descriptions. Will be
the links
full
to
deck
all
list
the
for
deck
all of
lists
these.
will
The
be in
links
the
to all these will be in the description. And we will be playing extensively with these lists, so don't worry about that either.
We will refine and shawarma chicken them over time.
We will be cutting them. It's hot out.
Trimming
We're going to be giving everyone. No, I love the
these
fat.
deck lists. Don't take these deck lists as like final or anything. This is just essentially a hot take that we're gonna test out.
Hot take. No pun intended, because this is draconic.
No pun intended.
If you take these to your rows in like 07 or whatever, that's your fault. Like that's not our fault. Okay. So I guess we'll pass it on to
jump in with Icelander. Maybe we can go like
actually, one more question though. One more question was, are you worried about Ranger? Because you mentioned the ice characters, but
which Ranger?
I feel like
which
both
Ranger?
might ruin your day. I want to say both, but I might be giving Azalea too much credit.
I think
my thoughts are Relentless hurts you a lot, and
Remorseless.
Yeah, sorry, Remorseless.
It is Relentless, but it does.
Hurts you a lot, and then Red Ledger also probably hurts you a lot.
They do. I think I'm too fast. I think I can come out out of the gate real quick for a deck without a lot of defensive tools,
right.
aka Azalea. I am worried about Ice Lexi. It does have ice in the name. I know the deck. Like I played that deck at PT. It's a very good deck into decks like this, right? I think you just straight up lose to that PT Ice Lexi build. Whether it's prevalent or not is a different story, and this deck might have to change to suit a particular meta. But I would definitely be worried about like an Ice Lexi build that like just pumps out chilling Ice Vein and Blizzard Bolt and just shits on the parade, right? Especially with some of the new ice cards that came out. That just like one of the one that like you can Arctic Incarceration or something like that. Like Lexi can just flip over the red, give you a frostbite, play it for 3 more frostbites, so you're sitting there with 4 frostbites. You just lose. So I'm terrified, to answer your question.
Okay. I guess we can start with Icelander then.
Yeah, let's go from hot to cold. Okay, so I'm countering you directly with this deck, Eric. I had you in mind with this deck.
You had me in mind.
You specifically. Right. Okay.
I love it.
Okay, first of all, I am not a wizard player. So a lot of the ideas that I have here are probably not even correct. But I did, so the way I kind of took this deck and, started to play with it is Icelander's ability starts with, or the effect is, if you have a blue card in your arsenal, you can play it as an instant. And for if it's an ice card, you can give it frostbite. So I focused on a lot of the blue ice cards first. And from there, I looked at what are their costs, how realistic can you play these cards from arsenal, and then have something decent on your own turn to do, right? So I thought of it in a way that on my turn, I would like to have probably 1 red card to play out and maybe 1 blue card to pitch for it, and then 1 more to arsenal. And on the opponent's turn, of course, I want a blue ice card in my arsenal, and then at least a blue card to pitch to play it out. So I went with a 66% roughly blue card ratio to red card. I actually did not put any yellow cards in this deck. Might be a bad idea, but I figured the yellow cards don't really serve much of a purpose with all of the cards, or a lot of the good cards costing 3, first of all. And you're really switching on and off between blue and red, in my opinion. You're going on my opponent's turn playing a blue card, on my turn playing a red card. So the yellows kind of didn't fit as well. There were a few that I considered maybe the D-React if I did want to play that package. I forget its name. The one that
it's like a 1 for 4
that gives frostbites if you hit with arcane damage. Yeah, exactly. So that yellow was interesting.
If you fuse it, you have to fuse it too.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's another topic. Yeah, fusing a bunch of these cards too. So let's start with the equipment. So there were, I guess, 2 main lines that you could look at for this deck. There is the Kraken's Aether Vein line, where you focus mostly on blue and then chip damaging and then getting value over time. But there was also the Waning Moon combo, or I guess piece that I looked at, which was a lot more alluring, in my opinion. It basically makes it so that any one cost card that you can play from your arsenal on your opponent's turn with a single blue pitch could combo with this weapon really well. So the 1-costed ice cards that were blue were super appealing to me. And so I kind of went with that. I leaned a lot more into that side of this build. This card is pretty much not going to serve much of a purpose right now. I'm probably not going to play it in any matchups, really. It's going to be Waning Moon for a while until I find out maybe it's not even that good. So in terms of the chest piece, I think Tunic is pretty much always the go-to. It makes it so that you can, on my opponent's turn, I could pitch a blue for like a 2-costed from Arsenal, and then have 2 costs left over for Waning Moon or something like that. So a total of 4 pitch. The Tunic can do a lot in this deck, or play a single 1-cost from Arsenal with Tunic. The gloves, I only have Metacarpus Node so far. There was the common glove, which I forget its name by now, but I did remove from the list. The one where you can destroy a frozen card in Arsenal.
The new one.
Yeah, the Frostburn, that's the one. So it really makes use of the frozen kind of ability in a way that's really cool, because no pun intended, because you can basically freeze a card and then instant speed snap it, right? Destroy it. So that was a cool idea. But Metacarpus Node, because we're running so many blue in this deck, it makes it so that it's a lot easier to play off, and probably you'll get more value over time. Or not over time, but in more of a burst fashion. So I kept that. Of course, Stormstriders is the go-to boots for Wizard. I don't see any other boots that could replace these. They're just so good to finish off my opponent. And then we have the new Ice headpiece, Coronet Peak. Really cool. With all the blues you run in this deck, of course, you'd run this helmet. And I don't even see myself running Skullcap for now. If I'm against an aggro deck, I'm just going to try to ice them out. I don't really care about the 2-block that much. All right, so I guess we can look at some of the red cards that I put in. This is the 33% roughly of the deck, the red cards. A lot of them mainly serve a single purpose, to deal as much damage as I can and to be as disruptive as I can, with the exception of Freezing Point, because that is just pure damage. We have cards such as Red Ice Bolt, 2 for 5. Really good damage. It's an ice card, helps you fuse. The Red Aether Hail, I believe, is 1 for 4, which is an excellent stat line. Aether Ice Vein, actually, one of the cards that I'm most excited about, because it is a 3 for 5. 3 not being a big deal because you pitch a single blue for it, but it also has the extra ability that if it hits and if it's fused, and by hit I mean deals damage, sorry, it's not an attack action card, but if it deals damage, the opponent has to either discard a card or pay 2. So it's got both effects that I'm looking for. It's got the damage, plus it's got the disruption. So I can be disruptive on my opponent's turn, and then on my own turn too. So it's kind of like double whammy. I like it a lot. I also have some disruption cards like Brain Freeze, really good for just picking a card from my opponent's turn, from their hand rather, and I believe it banishes it, or it puts it on top. I'm sorry, puts it back on top.
Yeah.
The one thing I don't like as much about Brain Freeze is that it does not have Go Again. So it's a single card turn, pretty much. If you have to expend a lot of cards to defend on the opponent's turn or pitch for your own ice cards, this is basically like a 1-card thing you do. Well, actually, you have to fuse. So, sorry, you have to actually play this, have a card left that's ice, hopefully, and then you can probably arsenal it if you have an arsenal. So, actually, a very good 2-card hand card, which is kind of good, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
I'm coming back to myself.
Your 1-card hands can just be Cornet Peak, right? So
that's a good point too. Yes, if you're stuck with a blue card, you can always use the helmet.
You can also like play because Winning Moon's instant, right? So like you can play that because you're non-attack and pitch for Winning Moon.
That's good. That's true, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So it will only do 2 if it's on your turn, but you can still do it, right?
Yeah.
Like it gets a card out of their hand, and then makes them take 2 damage, right? So it's
it's a good cycle.
They're always playing with 3-card hands essentially.
Right. That's true, actually. Okay. Yeah, I'm coming around on this card. I'm liking it more and more. Thanks, guys.
We're making your deck better just for you.
Yeah, it's nice to brainstorm together. I like this. One of the 1-costed cards I really liked was Cold Snap. The one that pairs really well with Waning Moon, because from Arsenal you can play this, draw a card back up, and then freeze the opponent's Arsenal card. So, like I said, a 1-cost ice blue is really nice into the weapon. So I'm going to be excited to try out Cold Snaps. I have the red ones. I'm not sure if that's a mistake or not, because you don't typically want to arsenal red cards in this deck. So I might cut them out if I feel like they're a bit too much. But on a turn where I don't have a good ice card to put in my arsenal, it could actually be pretty nice just to replenish my hand. And then the effect is pretty bad for the opponent if they're looking to have 5-card hands on their next turn. So I'll try it out. We'll see how it goes. Freezing Point, like I mentioned, is one of those reds that just deals pure damage, but it is a very good finisher if I'm able to get it off for like 6 to 8 arcane damage. I think it's very disruptive. The opponent cannot, by disruptive I mean it's very hard to block out. The opponent cannot feasibly block out 8 arcane damage. So very good for closing out a game. I am running a single copy of Nourishing. I'm not a wizard player, but I know that Kano likes to run Nourishing. So
you've seen everyone else do it. You might as well do it. There's got to be something.
The one issue I have with this card, though, is that if I do gain the intellect, right? Like, what am I going to do on my turn with 5 cards, 6 cards? Right?
You got to say, because Kano has much easier ways of dumping resources in Icelander.
Exactly.
But you still have, you have your helmet. You've got your staff.
That's a good point.
You've got stuff. You got stuff that you can dump resources into. Right.
So a lot of these cards don't have Go Again, which is a bit of the issue. Arctic Incarceration is one of those examples where in the red version of this card, give 3 Frostbites, sure, but you don't have Go Again, so you can't just play this and But you are making use of, like you said, the Coronet Peak as well as the weapon. So
you can just do it last too, right?
Yeah.
And you can do it last.
Have Storm Striders too. Yeah,
that's true. One-time use of Storm Striders. That's right. Looking at all the blue cards now. So the red cards, like I said, were mainly just to be able to push some damage on my own turn. the blue cards, Frost Hex being one that I forgot to mention earlier on, but that's one of the cards that really stood out to me when this card came out. It was spoiled. It was like one of those things that really made me want to play Icelander. Exactly. I was like, that's the first of its kind in Affliction aura. That's very sticky unless they have Thaw. That's the only way to get rid of it. But I mean, if this deck gets good enough, everyone's gonna run Thaw. So it's like one of those things where it'll be good initially, and then after it'll kind of get worse over time. But I love the idea of this giving kind of like a win condition to the deck that is not obvious at first. It's like, now your Frostbites deal damage. Now the opponent has to think about whether they want to pitch to get rid of the Frostbites, or basically let them hit you for like 3 or 4, depending on how many Frostbites you create. So it's a really neat card, and you can stack these, of course. So, you know, play up to 3 and then deal 3 damage per Frostbite. So really cool idea. Insidious Chill is one that I really want to experiment with. It is, I would say, heavier to play because the ability doesn't kick in right away. The ability is, of course, you put 3 counters on it, and then whenever you Ice Fuse, remove 1 counter, then the opponent has to decide whether they discard a card or pitch 2. It'll be very taxing, of course, for an aggro deck, because pitching 2 is going to be like almost like, no, I'm never going to do that. They'll be pitching or discarding their red cards away, most likely, but over time, this gives you a 1 card for 3 of the opponent's cards, pretty much. So I think that in a very controlled version of this deck, this is going to be a very nice card, and I would like to try it out into Fi and Dromai and see how well it does, because it's promising. It's really promising. It is also a 3-cost blue ice card. So enough said. That's a really good stat line. So I'm going to look forward to playing that. And yeah, a lot of the 0 costs, like Winter's Bite is amazing. Hypothermia as well. This might be more of a sideboard card, if I'm being honest, because of, you know, if there are cards that have Go Again built in, this isn't going to stop that. It's just cards cannot gain Go Again. So a lot of aggro decks have built-in Go Again, so it might not really apply, but the stat line is absolutely amazing. A blue ice costs 0. Emeritus is one of the interesting ones that I added. It might be a no-brainer to most people, but to me it was like, it's not an ice card, but it's a blue anyway, so you can still play it as an instant, and it deals 4 arcane damage for 2. Emeritus Scolding with the Tunic could actually get Emeritus Scolding for 4 into the Waning Moon for 3 more, so that's 7 arcane damage for a single blue pitch. Pretty nice. I kind of like that idea a lot. And the Channel Bleak Expanse is one of those cards also that might be more of a sideboard, but it's also blue ice, so I don't really know how much I'm going to be playing with it. But heroes can't draw, reveal, or search their deck. So if there are a lot of cards that do that in the matchup, I will consider playing them as well. It is one of those 1-costed cards that I like, that pairs really well into the Waning Moon. So there's that has going for it. I'll see how well it goes. And
Emeritus Scolding actually stands out to me too. In the matchups where your opponents are going to be doing essentially one action, so Bravo and probably Old Him, most of your Frostbites won't hit, and so you'll be relying on Frost Hex and kind of almost racing them, because you won't be able to disrupt them as well. So I wonder if that will be the choice to sideboard in there, where you just like want to ping the opponent for 7 damage during your turn.
Yeah, it is a good kind of like alternate strategy that you can do with this card for sure, because I mean, one of my worries into the matchups is playing against control, because I'm playing so many blue cards just to be able to kind of give Frostbites, right? And like, if they don't care, then I might as well just play a bunch of red cards. Like, you know, it's kind of like it doesn't matter as much in those matchups. So into aggro, I feel very confident with this deck. I think that it might dump on earlier iterations of Fi and Dromai. Later on, we'll see as these decks kind of evolve a little more. We'll see how it goes. But early on, it seems very promising, because even giving a single Frostbite can just derail a turn where they want to play 4 attacks, 4 chain links. So yeah, I think that this deck is promising into those kind of matchups. But the control and mid range are a little bit dicey for now. We'll see how it goes. I might play more of a 50 blue 50 red split into more of a control. Like I'll side out more blue cards and put more of the red cards in, maybe into control. But yeah, that's pretty much the deck. Anything that I didn't answer?
All right.
Yeah, I think that's
No, I think you got everything. Looks pretty good. I think we're gonna roll on to the Dragon Tamer himself, Mr. Fee.
Let me switch decks here. Where's the
All right,
first?
Albert, you're up.
Is this the first one or the second one?
Yeah, it's the first one.
Okay. You want to start with the first one, or do you want to
Yeah, sure. So the way I built this deck was jam as many dragons as I could and jam as many reds as I could, because Dromai works off of reds. It's whenever you pitch a red card, you make Ash, and then whenever you play a red card, all your dragons have go again. So one thing to note is I have Blood of the Dromai in the deck. You definitely don't need that.
High roller right there.
Play the
Yeah.
cold foil signed
opened
by
it,
Steve
so-
Argyle, right?
Yeah.
Man plays Fables.
Yep. Yeah, usually I'm opposed to playing Fables in my deck, but we have it, so why not? Okay.
So why not? My principles don't matter that much. Just put it in.
Morals.
To
Yes.
provide some context, guys, we have not opened a single Fabled in, was it 30-something boxes at least that we've opened previously? So this is our
We've
first
opened way
Fabled.
more than 30-something boxes.
Oh,
We're
probably
like
50?
80-ish boxes.
80? 80? Really? Okay.
I think so.
I can't count.
Collectively,
Check the
through
bank.
all our sealed events, all of our draft events.
Oh, yeah. You're right. You're right. We've opened like enough booster packs to fill an entire room, and we still haven't gotten the Fabled. So this is our first Fabled. So
It's funny
I
you
say
mentioned
he's-
that because one of our friends, Nia, I think he opened something like 80 or 84 box, something like that, and has not pulled a single Fabled yet.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah, you guys
Sad
are
life.
you guys are in drought weather over there in California for Fables.
absolutely.
Okay, so you got the Blood of the Dromai.
Yep. Yeah. And then I just filled the deck with a bunch of reds that I thought were cool. So CNC is cool.
Enough said.
Erase Face is cool.
Race
Yeah.
Face is really cool.
They art too,
Yeah.
man. Like that is nice art. It's like an anime kind of thing where it's like they shatter. It reminds me of One Piece Whitebeard. He like smacks and causes like a air earthquake thing. Kind of
Yeah.
looks like that. For those who know, will know.
Yeah. And then if you
Can
keep
you-
going down.
Can you talk to me about your dragons?
Yeah.
Dragon Ball
Dragons
Z.
are cool.
Did you just shove literally all of them in there?
I had every single one except for Yenderai
There's so many.
and Vincerakai. Because I thought Vincerakai died too easily to go wide decks and Singe and all the other stuff.
Right. The Serakai is the 6/1.
6/1.
The 1/6?
Yeah.
6? Oh, 6/1, right. Yeah, that's
The
the
6
It's the ball
1.
lightning one.
Yeah,
And
the-
then
Yenderai is
Yeah.
3/3.
Yep, it's a
Yenderai
3/3
is
with a counter.
endurance counter that prevents 3 damage.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I thought those two died too easily or wasn't great because Vincerakai is 3 cost and everything is red, so
It's very
can't really get
expensive. 3 costs for a 6/1.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the sideboard dragons I would say are probably Chromai, Thamai, Miragai, and Necria or something.
Oh, sorry.
Necria, you can see in the next deck list that I took it out because it's too expensive.
Right.
The good dragons I would say are Kyloria and Uvia. Uvia does a lot of value over time. Kyloria just threatens a snatch effect.
Yep.
So
That makes sense.
yeah. And then if you keep scrolling down, I have some other weird cards. So like
Just
stand
support
cover.
cards.
Yeah, so stand cover,
the ice
Sink
hate.
Blow.
The thaws.
Yeah. Yeah, but also it's a popper, so I might as well just have it.
Yeah.
Sand cover, sink blow, favor scene, those are like the defense reactions in case I want to go that route, because there's always, you gotta respect Rinthia. Always.
Always
and,
respect Dorinthia, yeah.
Yeah, there's always gonna be,
That one Dorinthia player.
That's
Yeah.
right.
yep. I know because there's one Dorinthia player in my local who only plays Dorinthia. Yep. And then Whispers of the Oracle, thought was cool because it blocks 3 and it costs 0, so you can just start your whole chain with that. And then some of the dragons care about what's on top. Also, Red Hot cares about what's on top. So,
That's true.
More red
That's definitely a spicy card, if I do say so myself. I wouldn't have thought of adding like the opt makes a whole lot of sense, but like the fact that it's in red makes even more sense because of your deck.
yeah.
Because
also
all your
blocks
big
3.
dragons reveal. It blocks 3. All your big reveals 3, 2, and 1, right? As far as the reveals for those 3 dragons, yeah. So it's actually like pretty useful as far as Red Hot, also. But I think that's pretty spicy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Unfortunately, I took it out. 'Cause I need
By the way,
slots.
that card you like so much, Eric, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's fine.
And then I
didn't-
have Veiled Intentions because I needed something to start a chain. And then there's a
Plus
line
4,
where
right?
you can do pitch for Veiled Intentions with a red, attack with all your dragons, and activate Furnace. Have 2 resources, attack with the Race Face or CNC. It's very risky. If they have a popper on one of your dragons, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, no way to
Yeah.
go again on that. But holy cow, that is strong.
BRB adding some poppers.
Yeah.
So,
It's all the 6
Yeah,
attacks.
the downside about Dromai is just 1 popper, 1 phantasm, and I'm die.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Makes a lot of sense.
And then the E-pots, because since everything is red, it's very hard to pay 6, 5, and 4 for your legendary dragons.
Yep.
So lose.
Yeah.
That's true. Did you consider Talisman of Recompense?
I did. There, I also considered Tomo Findall because I had the Dromai for extra action points, but it's just not good in my opinion.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, mostly because it's just hard. It's clunky to set up, and then
Not as much
if you wanna-
benefit, I guess, once it's set
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
yep.
That's reasonable.
Yep. And then so you can go to the other one.
Sounds good. The refined
Um,
version.
Yeah. So this one has a lot more blues because Frostbite's a thing. Taxing is a thing. I put in Yendrai back in, but I took out Asvalai. Asvalai is the arcane damage up to 2 targets. And Yendrai is a 1 cost, so you can pitch for Ash if you need to. Asvalai is probably going to go back in for the mirror to keep Ash range in check, but haven't tested that, obviously. Yeah, and then you'll see that I put in like rainbow sweeping blows because I was
Yeah, I think I saw that.
rainbow sweeping blows, rainbow
There it is,
rake
yeah.
embers because I needed to have a go wide package, and I need to have consistent ash generation because the other one generated a lot of ash, but then you use it to like make 1 big dragon, which isn't great.
Yeah.
So what matchups are you hoping to bring in the Go Wide package in?
Pretty much almost every single matchup, honestly. Every single matchup that I can think of, because Icelander and Kano needs to draw Singe, take care of them. Ninja, they don't really want to focus on your small guys. They want to focus on your big guys and get their on hit effects on your big guys only. And then sinking for like 4 damage into 1 life ally isn't that beneficial. And then I would say go wide is probably the strategy you want to go for the most. I'm thinking Guardian too, because if they just pop on your Ash Wings, that's one card for pretty much nothing. Maybe a third of a card because Break the Embers makes 3 of them. So I don't know. We'll see if my theory comes true. And then go wide also synergizes with Red Hot. So if you get Red Hot, like Chain Link 5 or 6, you reveal 6 cards and do maybe 4 or 5 extra damage. So,
Right.
This is all like Christmas Landy though, so
Yeah, it's all rainbows and unicorns right now.
yeah.
Rainbows and unicorns.
So-
I like it.
Here's a spicy card. Bracers of Belief in your equipment.
Oh, that's
Oh.
still there.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because Ghostly Touch does nothing against classes that just have
Ghostly
no
touch
poppers.
is nothing. Yes, that's fair.
So might as well just give Raise Face +2 or something. I don't know.
But
Yeah,
why not, like...
yeah.
I guess it's kind of spicy, but why not, like, Goliath Gauntlet at that point?
Are there a lot of 2s? I guess there are, right? You got the erase
There's only a
phase.
Raise Face.
No,
I took out
no
CNC
CNCs.
because
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
there's
Is
Thaw.
it red
and
hot as
Erase
well?
Face.
It could be okay, since it is
Yeah.
kind
I guess
of a
you
big
can-
attack finisher.
Yeah, you can also
Thaw.
pump like Dunebreaker or Dust Up or something.
Yeah,
just
the
to-
problem is with Goliath Gauntlet, you kind of need to pop it before the chain link happens, and if they
Yeah.
have a popper, then your red hot is kind of wrecked.
That's fair. That's
It's not hot. It's not hot anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. But also, Braces of Belief, you can opt 1 technically, or look at the top card.
That's true.
I never. Yeah, you can look. It's not an opt. You can look at the top
You can
card.
look
It's
and then just
red.
not do anything.
If it's not, if it's
Yeah.
not red, you
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
put it to the bottom.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's
I
I guess
will-
it does help on your decisions when you do the Thoughtseize Dragon. What's it called? Dominion.
Dominia.
Dominia.
Where is
Yeah,
Yeah.
right
Yeah,
there.
we can choose whether or not you want to play it if you're not sure if you guarantee the Thoughtseize or not.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's I think that's pretty reasonable.
Yep. And then with this Go Wide package, I was considering running like Toma Firebrand, but I feel like it's too inconsistent. It's
Yeah.
kind of a win more.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah. If you're at the point where you're attacking with like 6 Ash Wings, then you're in pretty good
You're
spot.
probably winning. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's better on like Vi, only just because those extra cards actually like can win you. Like you might not be winning the game at that chain link 4, right? You might need it to go over the top. So
Yep.
I think for Dromai, you don't really need it because of your dragons.
Yep.
Because that's the
Oh, yeah.
main reason you get that high. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
I also forgot to mention that I added Spears of Sur Reality, just for extra go wide. It's 1 for 5. It's good. It's an efficient attack.
That
so-
wasn't in here, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
it's at the
bottom.
bottom there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So when someone pops your Phantasm, are you running Stilettos? No. Do you
I'm
have? You
running
just have
He has it. Yeah, he
You're
has
right,
it.
footstep.
He has them here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Footsteps
footsteps.
lets you generate Ash on the opponent's turn if needed, because you always need to have Ash for
That's
invoke.
interesting. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
if
that
you're
makes
going,
sense. You
Most
do have,
importantly, you have a gold foil footsteps now, so you have to show it off, right?
yep,
It's also reasonable.
Oh, that's right. You bought one, right?
yeah, I traded up. I
You
traded
traded
up.
up.
I had to spend a lot of.
That's probably
My
if I
winnings.
had to buy a gold foil, that'd be the one I want. It's so nice.
Yeah.
A gun to your head, gold foil footsteps. All right, fair enough.
Yeah. I was
okay.
gonna ask. Sorry, about Erase Face. Is that that's a sideboard card, right?
Board, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Are there any
What do you
matchups
sideboard
you
it
thought
into?
of like specifically with this card? Yeah.
It's going in for 5. It's going in for Ranger.
You have to cast.
It's anything that needs to fuse, anything that cares about talents or class cards. So
Starvo.
yep. Yeah, Starvo too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the main one we're looking
course.
out for.
Yeah. How do you counter Starvo?
It's true. How does the deck
There's
deal with
Starvo looming over the metagame.
He's watching over
It
us in
is.
heaven.
Literally is. Okay, that makes sense.
Cool.
I did have to take out Fate for Scenes though. I might need to put them back in depending on how well it does against Dorinthia. I'm not sure though. Yeah, there's a lot of testing that needs to be
fair.
done.
Got it. And you did a couple games earlier. Anything that you, and this is kind of your current build. Any other matchups that you're worried about?
Ryer, Room Blade.
Classic Oliver.
Yeah.
Makes
Ryer
sense.
just gets free on hits with Force of Nature on your allies. Kind of the same thing as Fi.
Oh, that's
Rune Blade.
true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
Room Blade.
it's considered
You
yourself.
can't
like
defend
attacking
your allies.
right?
Those poor dragons.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh,
Yeah,
free
and then-
on hits. I'm gonna remember
Free on
that for
hits.
the
That's a very good point. I did not think of that.
Yeah.
It's an
Snatch
extension
all the
of
way,
yourself.
baby. Yeah.
It's really bad. Like it's just it guarantees on hits and it's kind of a
Yeah,
liability.
That's a big downside,
Fi,
yeah.
Katsu.
Yeah,
Those
I
all
imagine
have a lot of-
if they target your Ashwings though, you're fine with that because it's like, oh, they're spending a card to deal with an Ashwing rather
Yeah,
than like
yeah.
going face.
Mhm.
And hopefully, eventually, they'll brick right if they go for the giant Force of Nature turn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
I
see
think it's
though.
a matter of like depending on the deck, you just go for the bigger dragons and you just kind of ignore the Ashwings and just be like, okay, well if you're chipping, that's fine, and beyond the big hits, you're just pressuring their life so much that they can't generate more Ash and create more than like 2 or 3, unless they have like
Yeah.
Singe or whatever the card like destroys it or like some like wider card. But that makes sense. I can see actually Fi running Kadachis and sighting them into Fi just to
Yeah,
deal
that's
with you just like pitch, hit Ashwing, come in for whatever. I think it's actually, I'm thinking about it, that might just be, if Dromai is really popular, that might actually just be straight up a counter to that. Or like a way to like mitigate some of the go wide.
And I'll consider
potential.
running Singed in my
Yeah.
deck. I didn't have it in there, but now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, because
I
Fi
think-
doesn't have poppers. Like not really. Like you can't, like none of the natural cards have poppers. So you have to
Yeah.
run like
Yeah.
Fa.
You got CNC.
I don't run CNC though.
Oh,
I run
that's true.
the 1 for 5 break points.
You run
Which,
CNC at home.
And then
I run
you Art of War at +1.
Oh my god! How
do
can I
that.
forget pitching 3 to Art for a CNC to pop effect?
Yep.
That's so-
Word.
Oh,
It's
that's
tempo.
that is depressing. Oh, yeah,
Espresso
well, okay. If I have to do it, espresso depresso, as I usually say. That's true. All right. Well, that's kind of our rundown. Hopefully, everyone enjoyed the preeminent discussion. We will have another discussion video after our set of gameplay. So we're going to be running these heroes into each other. And to 3 other, we call them legacy heroes because they're all old compared to Uprising, right?
Yeah.
Half of which will be on the Spark of Genius channel, and the other half on the OK&Y channel, of course, all on TTS because the cards aren't out yet. So don't yell at us what
You guys don't have cards yet? Really?
We
You guys,
I got one of the
you guys don't
cards.
have cards?
up in Canada, we have them in an igloo somewhere that we just like take out for special
Frozen.
occasions. But
Frozen somewhere.
and then we're gonna have our deck techs for anyone who actually wants to run these potentially garbage decks, potentially godlike decks, or most likely in the middle decks is what I'm guessing is going to happen. So with that, if you like the content, feel free to like, comment, subscribe to both of our channels, Spark Genius and OK&Y. The video, we do have a Red Riot Games affiliate link in the description if you feel like purchasing some goods to help the channel. And with that, appreciate everyone watching from wherever you are watching in the world. Have a good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Bye for now.